You've always been different. A quiet storm, unnoticed. The world moves fast, shouting, demanding, clawing for attention. But you walk in silence, not the silence of weakness. No, the silence of a man who sees too much, who feels the weight of every word unspoken, who knows the truth lies in the spaces between. They call you aloof, cold, distant, but they don't see the fire, the furnace inside you, burning steady, a mind that cuts like a blade through the fog of their noise. You're a Sigma male, a lone wolf in a pack-obsessed world. You don't need their approval, their applause, their shallow games. But even a wolf has limits. Even a mountain can crack. What happens when the man who thrives in solitude, who builds his empire in the shadows, reaches his breaking point? It's not loud. It's not chaos. It's something far more terrifying. The silence shatters, and what spills out changes everything. You've felt it, haven't you? That pressure. Building. Not from them, not their petty judgments or fleeting trends, but from within. A war you've fought alone. A war you've always won. Until now. Until the moment the walls you've built, so carefully, so deliberately, begin to tremble. You don't scream. You don't rage. You don't beg for their understanding. That's not your way. But something shifts. Something ancient. Something unstoppable. The world doesn't see it coming. But you do. You've always known. The breaking point isn't the end. It's the beginning. What happens when a Sigma male breaks? Not collapse, not surrender, but a transformation so raw, so primal, it terrifies those who thought they knew you. This is the story of that moment. 5 terrifying things that happen when a Sigma male reaches his breaking point. 5 truths that will shake you. 5 awakenings that will set you free. Stay with me. The journey begins now. You've never fit their mold, never wanted to. The world loves its hierarchies, its leaders, its followers, its noise. But you've always walked outside their lines. A thinker, a watcher, a man who sees the strings they don't. The systems, the games, the lies they tell themselves to sleep at night. You've built your life on truth, not their truth, yours. A code forged in solitude, a strength carved from silence. But silence has a cost. Solitude has a price, and you've paid it. Every day, every choice, every step you've taken alone. They don't understand. They never will. They see your distance and call it arrogance, your restraint and call it fear, your depth and call it strange. But you know better. You've always known. Your power lies in what you don't say, what you don't do, what you refuse to become. Yet even the strongest fortress can crack. Even the deepest well can overflow. The breaking point comes not because you're weak, but because you're human. And when it comes, it's not what they expect. It's not what you expect. The first terrifying thing is the sound. Not of chaos, not of destruction, but of silence breaking. Imagine a forest at midnight. Still, perfect, not a whisper of wind. Then, a single branch snaps, and the world holds its breath. That's what it feels like. The moment your silence breaks, not with words, not with noise, but with a presence so heavy, so undeniable, it forces the world to notice. You've spent years holding it back, the thoughts too sharp to share, the feelings too deep to name, the truths too heavy for their fragile world. But now they spill, not in a flood, not in a storm, but in a single, piercing note. A truth so pure, so raw, it cuts through everything. And the world is afraid. Not because you're loud, but because you're real. They've never seen a man like you. A man who doesn't need their stage, their spotlight, their rules. And in that moment, they realize something terrifying. You were never hiding. You were waiting. What does it mean to break? Not to fall apart, not to lose control, but to become more. More than they could ever understand. More than you ever allowed yourself to be. The shattered silence is just the start. It's the crack in the dam, the first ripple in a still lake. What comes next is deeper, darker, more dangerous. You've always known the world wasn't made for you. Its systems, its expectations, its shallow measures of success. But you've played along, not for them, for you. To keep the peace, to keep the balance, to protect the man you are from the man they want you to be. But at the breaking point, that balance shifts. The mask you've worn, not for them, but for yourself, begins to slip. And what lies beneath is something they can't handle, something you've always known was there, something you've kept locked away. The shadow, the part of you that doesn't compromise, that doesn't bend, that doesn't care. It's not evil, it's not cruel, it's just you. The you that's been waiting, the you that's been silent too long. And when it wakes, the world trembles. There's a part of you you've never fully faced, not because you're afraid, but because you know its power. It's the shadow, the untamed, the unfiltered. The part of you that doesn't ask permission, that doesn't seek approval, that doesn't play by their rules. You've kept it chained, not out of shame, not out of fear, but out of discipline. A Sigma male doesn't unleash his shadow lightly. He knows its weight, its cost, its truth. But at the breaking point, the chains snap. Not because you've lost control, but because you've chosen to let go. This is the second terrifying thing. The unleashing of the shadow. Not a monster, not a villain, but a force. A presence so raw, so real, it makes the world flinch. They've never seen you like this. The man who always held back, who always measured his words, who always walked away. Now you don't. Now you stand. Now you speak. And when you do, the ground shakes. The shadow isn't loud. It's not reckless. It's precise, deliberate. A blade honed by years of silence. It's the part of you that says no. No to their games. No to their lies. No to the life they've tried to force on you. And it's terrifying. Not because it's violent. Not because it's cruel. But because it's free. The shadow doesn't care about their opinions, their expectations, their applause. It doesn't need their validation. It doesn't seek their praise. It simply is. And that's what scares them. A man who doesn't need them. A man who doesn't bow. A man who doesn't break. You've always known this part of you was there. Lurking. Waiting. You've felt it in the moments you stood alone. In the choices you made when no one was watching. In the truths you kept to yourself. But now it's awake. And it's not going back. The shadow doesn't destroy. It creates. It carves a new path. A path they can't follow. A path they can't control. And in that moment, you realize something. The breaking point isn't about losing. It's about becoming. The shadow is you. The real you. The you that's been waiting all along. What does it mean to be free? Not the freedom they sell you. Not the freedom of wealth or status or fame, but the freedom of a man who knows himself, who answers to no one, who lives by his own code. The unleashing of the shadow is a reckoning, a moment when you stop apologizing, Stop explaining. Stop hiding. But it's not the end. It's only the beginning. The breaking point is a journey. And the next step is the hardest. You've always known the world wasn't yours. Its systems weren't built for you. Its rewards weren't meant for you. Its rules weren't written for you. But you've tried. You've worked. You've fought. Not for their approval, but for your own. For the life you wanted. For the truth you believed in. And yet, it's never enough. The world keeps pushing, keeps demanding, keeps trying to make you something you're not. At the breaking point, you stop trying. Not because you've given up, but because you've had enough. The third terrifying thing is what comes next. The moment you turn your back. Not in defeat, but in defiance. There's a moment when you realize the game isn't worth playing. Not because you can't win. You could. You've always known you could. But because the prize is worthless. The world offers you its treasures, its titles, its applause, its empty promises of happiness. But you see through it. You always have. The hollow smiles, the fragile egos, the lives built on sand. You've never wanted that. You've wanted truth, depth, purpose. But the world doesn't reward that. It rewards conformity, obedience, noise. And you've tried to find a balance, to carve your space, to live your truth in their world. But at the breaking point, you stop. You look at their world, their systems, their rules, their lies, and you say, no. This is the third terrifying thing. The rejection of the world, not with anger, not with hate, but with clarity. You don't burn bridges. You don't scream your defiance. You simply walk away. And that's what terrifies them. A man who doesn't need their game. A man who doesn't want their prizes. A man who chooses his own path. They'll call you crazy, selfish, lost. But you know the truth. You're not lost. You're found. The rejection of the world isn't about destruction. It's about creation. It's about building something new, something real, something yours. You've always known you didn't belong, not because you're broken, not because you're wrong, but because you're different. And at the breaking point, you embrace it. You stop fighting their current. You stop swimming against their tide. You step out of the river entirely, and you start walking your own path, your own truth, your own life. The world will try to pull you back. It always does. It needs you. It needs your strength, your mind, your fire. But you're done. Not with living, not with fighting, but with their version of it. And in that moment, something shifts. The weight you've carried, the expectations, the demands, the noise, it falls away. You're free, not the freedom they talk about, but the freedom of a man who knows who he is, who knows what he wants, who knows what he's worth. And that is terrifying, not just to them, but to you. Because now there's no one to blame, no one to fight, no one to prove yourself to. There's just you and the path ahead. What does it mean to be alone? Not lonely, not abandoned, but truly, deeply alone. The kind of alone that isn't empty. The kind of alone that's full of truth, full of power, full of you. The rejection of the world is a rebirth, a moment when you stop being what they want and start being what you are. But the journey isn't over. The breaking point is a process, a transformation, and what comes next is the most powerful of all. You've shattered the silence. You've unleashed the shadow. You've rejected the world. Now, you become something else, something greater, something eternal. The fourth terrifying thing is the moment you rise, not as a hero, not as a king, but as something more. There's a moment when you stop running, stop hiding, stop waiting, and you stand. Not for them, not for their applause, but for you. This is the fourth terrifying thing, the birth of the unseen king. Not a ruler of men, not a conqueror of lands, but a master of himself. The Sigma male at his breaking point doesn't become loud. He doesn't become cruel. He becomes undeniable. You've always been powerful, but you've hidden it. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You knew the world wasn't ready. You knew you weren't ready. But now you are. The unseen king doesn't need a throne. He doesn't need a crown. He doesn't need their worship. His kingdom is within. His power is his mind. His strength is his silence. And when he rises, the world feels it. Not because he shouts, not because he demands, but because his presence changes everything. The unseen king is the man you've always been. But now, you own it. You live it. You breathe it. You've shattered their illusions. You've rejected their lies. You've unleashed your truth. And now, you build. Not their world. Yours. A world of meaning. A world of purpose. A world of truth. The unseen king doesn't seek followers. He doesn't need them. But they come. Not in droves, not in crowds, but one by one. The ones who see, the ones who understand, the ones who know. And you don't lead them. You walk, and they follow. Not because you ask, but because they see the truth in you. This is what terrifies the world. A man who doesn't need them. A man who doesn't bow. A man who doesn't break. The unseen king is the Sigma male reborn. Not louder, not softer, but truer. And in that truth, you find something you've always sought. Not peace, not happiness, but purpose. The purpose of a man who knows himself, who trusts himself, who lives for himself. And that is the most terrifying thing of all. Not to them, but to the man you used to be. Because the unseen king doesn't look back. He doesn't regret. He doesn't waver. He moves forward, always forward, into the unknown, into the truth, into the life he was always meant to live. What does it mean to be whole? Not perfect, not flawless, but complete. A man who carries his scars, his doubts, his truths, and walks anyway. The birth of the unseen king is a beginning, but it's not the end. The breaking point is a cycle, a journey that never truly stops. The fifth terrifying thing is what comes next. The moment you realize it's not over. It never will be. You thought the breaking point was the end, the climax, the resolution, but it's not. It's a door you'll walk through again, and again, and again. This is the fifth terrifying thing. The eternal return. The truth that the Sigma male's journey is never finished. You've shattered the silence. You've unleashed the shadow. You've rejected the world. You've become the unseen king. But the world doesn't stop. The pressure doesn't end. The war inside you never truly fades. And that's what makes you different. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you, you. The eternal return is the realization that the breaking point isn't a single moment. It's a cycle, a rhythm, a truth you'll face again. Not because you're weak, not because you've failed, but because you're alive. The Sigma male doesn't seek comfort. He doesn't seek ease. He seeks truth, and truth is a fire that burns, a fire that refines, a fire that never dies. You'll break again, not in the same way, not for the same reasons, but you will. And when you do, you'll be ready. Because you've been here before, because you know the path, because you know yourself. The eternal return is terrifying because it demands everything. Your strength, your courage, your truth. But it's also beautiful because it's yours. Your journey, your fire, your life. The world will never understand. It doesn't have to. This isn't for them. It's for you. The Sigma male at his breaking point is a man reborn. Not once, but every time he chooses to rise, every time he chooses to walk, every time he chooses to live. And in that choice, you find something sacred. Not an answer, not a destination, but a truth. The truth that you are enough. Not for them, not for the world, but for you. So stand, walk, break, and rise again. The world may tremble, but you will soar.